All right, so let's talk about natural time and your biological rhythms. And so, when we say natural time, we're talking about the natural biopsychic rhythms of the earth and your attunement to these biopsychic rhythms as a human consciousness. And so, there is, of course, a parity, meaning there is a synchronization between your own biological rhythms and the biopsychic rhythms of the earth. And so when you look on at your world, look on at the planet, you can see quite clearly that there is a rhythm of seasons, a seasonality. There is a moon cycle, the sun rises, it sets, and so there are these occurrences in the natural world that speak to natural cycles and a natural rhythm that would be quite different from, let's say, an artificially imposed rhythm, which in many instances goes against that or runs up against natural time. So, natural time, again, what we're calling a natural biopsychic rhythm that has a structure within the earth body and, of course, a structure in terms of the earth's relationship to the sun, moon, planets. And then there is artificial time, which is what we would describe as a set of artificial rhythmic overlays onto natural time, which have the effect of distancing you from that natural time, distancing you from a much more organic relationship with your consciousness and an organic relationship with time as you see it. And so let's talk about that. There is a natural time that supports the optimal functioning of your biology. There is a natural time that supports the psyche. So natural time would support the best functioning of your biopsychic structure. And when we say biopsychic, we mean the relationship between your biology and your psyche. Of course, we know that consciousness, the psyche is the engine for everything. And so the human structure is a marriage between biology and psyche. And so that is what we want to point out. And so with artificial time that has been synthetically, artificially imposed upon natural time, you see this on the planet in terms of people feeling forced to insert themselves psychologically and physically into a rhythmic structure, a way of moving through reality that runs counter to the natural rhythms in the body. So the natural rhythms in the body are organically linked to the earth structure. And so the more that you connect to the earth, as trite as that sounds, the more it is that your natural rhythms are supported. And so when you are in artificial time, that artificial time, it would introduce a level of friction. It runs counter to your natural biological mechanism, and it produces a whole series of effects that you can feel. And so when you force yourself into artificial time, there will always be a portion of you that rejects the imposition of artificial rhythms that run against or run counter to your biopsychic structure. And so this way that you rebel internally, so the inner portion of you, your inner psyche, your consciousness, it rebels in part. And the natural consciousness of the body, so the body has its own consciousness, so to speak. I mean, you inhabit your body, you do. Your consciousness animates your body, but your body has, let's say, its own internal structure of consciousness. Not to be too technical there, but just to point that out, that the body has a body consciousness, and that body consciousness would help to convey data to you. So your body has its own ways of filtering in data, and that data now becomes marshaled by you in a process of cognition and a process of knowing and understanding. And so that's what it is. So when you are inserted into artificial, synthetic, inorganic time, the body consciousness, your internal psyche as well, rebels against this imposition. And so the body's way of saying to you that you are in a time rhythm that runs against its optimal functioning, the body gets ill, you get sick. But apart from that, there are psychological symptoms. So unwillingness, inner uncooperativeness, you don't want to do what you feel like you're forced to do. Even a kind of resentfulness that you might feel about having to go out and do things that run up against your natural biological structure. And that's why we say that it's so important for you to move into a dispensation of trusting of your natural human template. And that trust has been taken from you, the ability to trust in your own natural senses, to trust in the body's organic rhythms. That ability has been robbed from you. And so you don't trust yourselves. You don't trust the organic structure of your own human template. And so if you had more trust in that, you would be led into activities that support your optimal functioning. And this business of time is an important one because your psychological orientation to time conditions how you experience your reality. And so that's important to appreciate. So your traditional notions of work time meaning time to be productive, time to go out and work, time to work. Your basic structure of work time on the planet, how you psychologically approach the question of work, that is very much attuned to what we would describe as an artificial rhythmic overlay. An artificial rhythmic overlay that obstructs or prevents you from tuning into more natural time. But the body knows natural time. And so the body more or less will tend to, on its own, if left on its own, it would want to naturally reach toward and fall back into more natural rhythms. And so you can suppress these rhythms artificially through artificial time constructs and how you would psychologically approach your daytime activities. You can suppress it, but it always exists. Your natural biological attunement, your biopsychic attunement to natural organic time always exists at a structural level, on a deep subterranean level. Natural time and the body's linkage into that natural time, those natural rhythmic cycles, that exists and always exists, but it can be suppressed by artificial rhythmic overlays. So that's important to understand. So it is natural time that supports, again, as we said, the optimal functioning of your biology. Inorganic time is going to, or has introduced, and will always introduce, friction. It will introduce friction in your biological system, which the body reflects as illness and other problems. So with natural time operating in natural time has the effect of stretching time. So you feel as though you have time to do the things that you would like to do. So with natural time, you are able to expand time. So natural time is really, let's say, a psychological orientation that is in tune, as we said, with the Earth's biopsychic rhythms. And it's a psychological orientation that allows you, it's a stance you take with your consciousness that allows you to expand time. So you feel as though you have more time to do what you want to do. So an hour will feel like a longer time That is when you know that you are stretching and expanding your awareness. Artificial time, inorganic time, which is, as we said, characterized by rhythmic structures that run counter to the natural biopsychic earth rhythms. Inorganic, artificial time feels as though I never have enough time. There's never enough time. So you change your orientation to time through your consciousness, as magical as it may sound, but we try to tell you that your consciousness, it is magical. It operates with a deep psychic sophistication, your consciousness. And so you change your experience of time through your consciousness. And so it is your psychic mood and orientation that determines your relationship to time and how time is experienced. So natural time includes time when you are naturally inclined to work, meaning work in the sense of how you define work. So natural time does not mean necessarily that there are unchanging static rhythms, or that the same thing takes place, that you're in a static psychological state all the time. Natural time means an organic rhythmic flow that incorporates various states. And so you can see quite plainly as you look at the natural world that there are times for rest and times for focused activity. And so animals do not force themselves to do focused activity in rest time. During rest time, they are not forcing themselves to do something that would run against their internally felt biological rhythm. So animals follow their own inner biopsychic rhythms, and they do that with ease because, as strange as it might sound, well, animals, they would have, on a whole, more natural self-trust, more natural cooperativeness with their own internally felt sense of rhythm that guides them. And so, right under your nose every day, animals are accomplishing great feats, feats that are quite remarkable if you would take the time to observe what they do. And so they are able to rely on their internal biopsychic rhythms to know when to migrate, to know when to mate, to know when to do all of these things, to know what to eat, to know when it's time to sleep, time to hunt, all of that. And so that is led by an inbuilt coding in their structure, which they sense intuitively and which they go along with. The human story is a bit more complicated, and meaning that there have been incursions into the natural structure, or let's say there have been disruptions to the natural structure. Your natural biopsychic rhythms have been distorted by artificial time overlays, artificial rhythmic overlays, where you are literally tuned to a rhythm that is divorced from the natural rhythm of your biology. So animals, they follow their own internal biopsychic rhythms because of a basic sense of trust, self-trust. I can allow my internally felt rhythms to guide me to what behavior is appropriate. So the question then becomes, well, how do I tune my consciousness more to natural time? How do I create a psychological orientation that tunes up with natural time? It's almost as though we could say, if you were a radio, being tuned to artificial time would almost be like being tuned to the wrong station, so to speak. It's not a perfect analogy, but you'll get what we mean. You've tuned into a rhythmic structure that runs counter to, as we said, your consciousness. So the question is, well, yes, how do you tune your consciousness to natural time? What are the easiest ways to do that? And so, again, nothing rocket science here, but firstly, we would encourage you to be more aware of the earth in very simple terms, just your simple awareness to the natural rhythms around you. So what trees do you see, perhaps at certain times of year? What's blooming? When is the moon full? When is it new? Look up, look around if you can, and begin to notice the natural world. That would be a very simple but very effective way of beginning to tune yourself to natural time and to activate the pathways of the mind brain, the brain mind, to activate the natural pathways of the brain mind that tune you into this organic time. And so there's a way of tuning your consciousness into this more organic time structure. First thing is to be more aware of the natural rhythms around you in the form of the natural world as they present themselves. So human beings are designed structurally to look at the natural world. It is the most ubiquitous thing around you, but there would have been various degrees of building over natural structures, of course, in cities, etc. But it remains true that the easiest way for you to tune your consciousness to natural time is to observe the natural rhythmic cycles around you and to use your physical eyes to take in these rhythmic structures, to notice, when are the bees out? What birds do I see? And so what that does is to harmonize your structure. It creates harmony and balance in the brain, in the body, hemispheric balance. And so natural time results in spaciousness, clarity. It would lend itself to much more appreciation, receptivity to solutions. So you become more receptive and you have more time. You accomplish a lot more because you're in an organic, natural flow. And so because of your attunement to artificial time, many of you have been sort of inserted into a field of anxiety. And so anxiety is the body's way of letting you know that you are, in effect, stressing it out. You are inhabiting a psychic orientation that is detrimental to your body, your biological psychic structure. So your artificial time constructs, they produce in the body what is known as anxiety. And anxiety is a signal for you to, on one level, readjust the rhythms, readjust your psychological orientation. So you want to bring the body into calm, bring the body back into more alignment with natural time. So things like basic looking at the natural world. There are, let's say, special ways in which the images of the natural world and the colors that you see in the natural world, they interact with the structures in your retina in a very specific way, which are meant to introduce coherence into your system. So inbuilt into the visual structure of how you would perceive the natural world are codes, let's say a language between your perceiving apparatus in your eyes, the retina, and the images that you would be looking at. So the natural world, there is a harmony between the scope of shapes and colors that you see in the natural world and how that interacts with the structure of your eyes to produce in the body a certain coherence and balance. And so to look at beauty, to take in beauty, finding beauty around you is another very easy way of tuning yourself more to natural time. And so these are what you would call kind of low-hanging fruit. You can easily incorporate these things into your life. Finding ways to seek out and notice natural rhythms. Whatever it is that introduces harmony and coherence to your body is going to attune you to natural time. On the individual level, there are individual rhythms. You are individual consciousnesses. And so you will each have your own very unique, specific, individual, natural, organic rhythm. So it takes courage to lean in or lean toward your natural biopsychic rhythms because you've been so indoctrinated out of trust in your structure that it is an act of great courage to decide to live your life in harmony with your own rhythms and to be in creative pursuits that allow you to flourish because you are trusting in your own organic, inner natural flow. Yes. If you have chosen to operate more in harmony with your natural organic rhythm, well, it is a choice that in many instances has been punished, let's say, or not rewarded on the planet. The choice to trust yourself and go in harmony with and flow in harmony with your own internal, natural, biological rhythm. Anything that puts you closer to your own, the integrity of your own internal structure, well, you've been basically indoctrinated out of. And so if you can't trust yourself, then who can you really trust? And so many of you are afraid of operating in natural time. So you've suppressed it so much in your structure that you become afraid of attuning yourselves to natural time. And so it takes, as we said, great courage to choose your own internal rhythm and to design your reality expecting success based on a choice to align with your own integrity. And so when you begin to open up and trust in your own internal integrity, that is when you open up new layers, again, of your human template. You begin to actualize yourself in new ways when you begin to trust in the deepest structures of your psyche. And it is mistrust of them, indoctrination out of them, that produces friction and is responsible for a lot of the planetary problems that you have. It is distortion of your template, warping of your template, suppressing of your template, your natural inborn human dignity, distortion of that, scrambling of that, fracturing of that, that results in your planet's problems. And so the invitation is to be more human, not less, to trust more in your internal capacities, to trust more in the integrity of your biological human template, which is inherently a template of dignity, despite what you've been told and how you've been indoctrinated. And the more you begin to practice that in your own life, trusting first yourself, leaning into your own natural rhythms more, the more that you raise up your own internal status and you begin to accomplish things that show you that your humanity is blessed and dignified and that you are worthwhile. It inspires you to have confidence in you when you decide to ride through reality in a way that is led principally through your investment in the belief of your own integrity and the integrity of your natural human structures. And so that is what we would like to leave you with.